Hey everybody, welcome to week 10. We are moving right along. This week, you're just going to keep going forth with your research and you're taking notes and thinking about your research paper topics. But what I'd like to do here is comment a little bit on your P3 argument papers, which by now should be graded by the time you see this. I'm actually recording this last Thursday if you're watching it next week. So I still have 9 more to go, but I'm going to aim to get those done in the next day or so. But anyway, the argument papers were great, and it's important to know what you did right and what you did wrong, since the research paper is a bigger version of the argument. So here we go. In general, again, I was really pleased with the shape of the arguments. You guys had really good logical arguments as evidence to support your thesis, and you addressed the counter arguments, and then you conceded to the counter arguments. Yeah, they get this right, but then you refuted them. However, they get this wrong. So that was good. Some small things, though, that a lot of people made errors on. The first one is when you're introducing an author for the first time into your paper, you guys did a nice job of using their first and their last name. After the first time, you can just use their last name. Tannen argues, Bauerlein states. What I would like you to do is go a step further, though. So here's a line from someone's paper. As Turkle argues in Reclaiming Conversation, The Power of Talk in a Digital Age, we're being silenced by our technologies, in a way cured of talking. So this person had made an error because they didn't have the first name. So it should be as Sherry Turkle argues, right, the first time. But in addition, if possible, put the person's credentials. Why should we bother listening to this person that you're introducing in your paper? Is it some Joe Schmo who's just got a blog? Or is it some Sherry Turkle, professor of social studies of science and technology at MIT? Well, wow, I'm going to listen to her, right? So if you could get into the habit, if possible, of putting that, even if it is Joe Schmo, owner of the blog, blah, 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 that's helpful to know for your reader. I want to point out a couple of other things on this particular example, too. One, remember that when you're putting the titles of books or anything that is whole in and of itself, books, newspapers, journals, movies, albums, it's not part of something bigger. Those titles get italicized. A lot of people forgot those, both in the text and in your works cited lists. Second, if you notice this little part right here, the curative talking has a single quotation marks around that one little phrase. Those single quotation marks are used when you have a quote within a quote. Okay, so that's what that's for. So, okay, that's one point. I just have a couple. Next one. A lot of you make, unintentionally, sweeping generalizations, which are very easy to knock down. Better when you're writing to qualify your comments. And this is discussed a little more fully on page 76 of your textbook if you want more information. But for example, someone wrote, Facebook has been the cause of young people getting involved in politics. I know what she's saying, but has it been the cause, the only cause? That would be really easy to refute. So harder to refute would be to write a qualified statement. Facebook has been one of the main causes of young people getting involved in politics. That sounds a lot better, right? Or how about this one? Everyone these days has a smartphone. Really easy to refute. I know some people who don't have a smartphone, and that would refute that argument. But if this person had written practically everyone these days has a smartphone, it's much better. It's qualified. It's much more difficult to refute. Third example. Being aware of how much time we spend looking at screens will put an end to these negative effects. It might not. But if we say, being aware of how much time we spend looking at screens will likely put an end to most of these negative effects, much easier to state, and no one can refute that. Third one, you don't ever need to write I believe or in my opinion or I think. If you have written it, I know that's what you believe. I know that's what you think because you've written it. Anything that you're writing that's someone else's idea, what they say, you need to put attributive tags to make clear that's not what you think, that's what they think, right? But here's another reason. Opinions are things that cannot be proven, can be neither proven nor disproven. Like the best flavor of ice cream is chocolate. No one can prove that. No one can disprove it. That's just an opinion. What we're dealing with in this class is evidence, facts, analysis, right? So when you're doing an analysis, you're dealing with facts. So it's not, in my opinion, middle schoolers shouldn't be given, children shouldn't be given smartphones until they're in high school. That's not an opinion. That's a fact that you're putting forth. That's an argument that you're putting forth. Not a fact, I guess. It's an argument that you're putting forth based on the evidence. But it's not an opinion. See the difference? That's analysis. It's the essence of good thinking and good writing. Okay, last one. MLA format. And I know some of you are doing APA, but this kind of applies for the most part. I'll show you where it doesn't. But there were a couple of very common errors. So here's an example of a line. This actually is from one of the sample student papers in our textbook. It is on this high and militant note that the ballet ends, Wilkinson notes. And it's from page 172 of this text by Wilkinson. This is not the first instance in the text that Wilkinson is mentioned, so just his last name is there. The only purpose of the in-text citation is to direct the reader to the works cited list, which is this part down here. So you don't want the full bibliographic information in the text. That's too obtrusive. We want a small, unobtrusive, maybe Wilkinson space 172 for MLA format, for example, or if Wilkinson is noted in the text, just 172. Then the reader can take that, go back to the works cited page, look for it alphabetically, which is easy to do because of the hanging indent, right? The first word or words is hanging out here. And oh, there it is, Wilkinson. So I know that this quote came from this source, okay? A couple of other things. MLA has updated guidelines. They're a bit simpler, and there seems to be some confusion. I'd like you to use the latest, the ones that the textbook uses, the one that Purdue OWL uses, the one that's used in college. When you're using MLA format, and the same with APA format, right? But here's the general idea. So if you look here, there really are only three kinds of information in a works cited entry. Author, period. Title of source, period. And then all of these go together because the period doesn't come until down here. So basically, this is all stuff about the container, where you got the source from. And you use any of this information in this order, and if you don't have some information, you just skip it. So for example, all of these start with the author period, author period, author period. Slightly different in APA, but MLA is last name, comma, first name. Then they have the title. If the title is complete in and of itself, it's not part of something bigger, it's in italics, like Art in Turmoil, the Chinese Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 76. If the title is something that's smaller, but it's part of a bigger thing, so it's a chapter in a book, it's an article in a collection of essays, it's a page on a website, those titles go in quotation marks, like The White-Haired Girl from Yanko to Revolutionary Modern Ballet. That's an article in the journal, so that's the container, Educational Theater Journal. The Cultural Revolution is a chapter, it's a web page on the website History Learning site. Okay, then after the container, it's all commas, and you only put what you need or what you have access to. So in this case, title container, Educational Theater Journal. Other contributors, there's none, so I skip that. Version number, it's volume 26. Publisher, I don't have, so I skip it. But I have the publication date, 1974, and then the location in a print source is the pages. Right, let's look at this one. Author period, Zuiman Chris. Title of source period, The Cultural Revolution. Title of container, this is a website. There's the period, there's the website, History Learning site. No other contributors, no version, no number, no publisher. So the next thing I put is the date, 3 March 2016. All of these are separated by commas. And then finally the location. So since this is a website, the location is not a page number, but a website address. Hopefully that helps. All right, this week, like I said, you're just going to keep calm and just keep going with your research. You have questions, please use your resources. Me, the reference librarians, anyone else. You may be challenged, and it does get a little harder sometimes when we go along, but don't give up because you really, to reach a new peak, if you will. Some of you have never written a paper this long. It's challenging, but it's going to feel good at the end. And think about this, you're getting stronger, okay? That when it's tough, that's where you're growing. So if it's tough, it doesn't mean you're dumb. Nobody here is dumb. If it's tough, it means probably you don't have enough information, you've never done this before, and that's why you have resources, okay? Especially in this online class. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I hope that helps. Good luck, and I'll see you next week, or I'll see you soon, not next week. We don't have a chat session for a couple weeks. Take care.